looking to connect a region of over 600 more bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. On today's headlines, at least 6 people were reported wounded. Others claim 2 kids had died in a bomb attack on Wednesday outside a restaurant in Sultan Kudarat's town of Isulan in southern Philippines. Finance ministers and central bank deputies of 13 East Asian countries on Wednesday discussed plans to increase the role of local currencies through currency swap transactions to avoid over-reliance on the US dollar. And catch a glimpse of the Inle Lake Wildlife Sanctuary in Myanmar, home to a number of endemic fish and invertebrates and some 254 bird species, many of which are winter migrants. Brunei Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah says Brunei political system preserves and guarantees the rights of all the people regardless of their race and faith during a speech as strict new Sharia punishments including death by stoning for gay sex and adultery were due to come into force on Wednesday.
Sistem ini berkewajiban untuk memelihara dan menjamin semua hak rakyat dan penduduk tanpa mengira puak dan pegangan mereka. Inilah MIB, konsep keramat yang telah berjaya menjelmakan sebuah negara yang adil lagi bahagia, yang hidup di dalamnya sebuah komuniti yang bersatu padu. Sistem MIB juga telah terbukti amat mesra kepada dunia, sehingga siapa saja yang datang berkunjung ke negara ini akan beroleh pengalaman manis, dapat menikmati suasana aman dan harmoni serta layanan yang sebaik-baiknya.
Brunei Sultan called for Islamic teachings in the country to be strengthened as strict new Sharia punishments, including death by stoning for gay sex and adultery, were due to come into force on Wednesday. The laws, which also include amputation for hands and feet for thieves, will make Brunei the first place in East or Southeast Asia to have a Sharia penal code at the national level, joining several mostly Middle Eastern countries such as Saudi Arabia. Rape and robbery are also punishable by death under the code, and many of the new laws, such as capital punishment for insulting their Prophet Muhammad, apply to non-Muslims as well as Muslims. The Sultan, who is the world's second longest reigning monarch, first called for the penal code in the late 1990s, and it appears to enjoy broad support in the former British protectorate of about 400,000 people. The decision to push ahead with the punishments has sparked alarm around the world, with the United Nations labeling them cruel and inhumane, and celebrities led by actor George Clooney and pop star Elton John calling for Brunei-owned hotels to be boycotted.
It's going to, again, cause damage to ASEAN. It's going to create, again, the same impression that we've seen in the past, that ASEAN is a collection of rights-abusing nations, that these governments are all about themselves and not about the people, and ultimately that when a government wants to do something, it's willing to trample the rights of its people who it allegedly represents.
At least 6 people were reported wounded. Others claim 2 kids had died in a bomb attack on Wednesday outside a restaurant in Sultan Kudarat's town of Isulan in southern Philippines. Town Mayor Marites Paliasigue said the blast occurred outside the Carlitos Chicken along the highway. Paliasigue said most of the victims are related to each other. Former presidential peace advisor Jesus Dureza in his Facebook account said 2 children were killed in the powerful explosion. No individual or group claimed responsibility for the attack, but the previous motorcycle bombing was claimed by ISIS, according to site intelligence. The blast coincided with the town's 61st founding anniversary and occurred while the whole region is under martial rule. The motorcycle was parked along the highway near several shops in Calawag village when it exploded around 8:30 p.m. and 2 other improvised explosives were recovered not far from the area. At least 35 people wounded in the blast were rushed to the hospitals, and an adult and child died from the bombing. The Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, or BIFF, whose leaders have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State, also claimed responsibility for the last year's attack in the town. The BIFF, whose members were mostly former Moro Islamic Liberation Front fighters, is one of several pro-ISIS militant groups fighting for the establishment of a caliphate on Mindanao. The bombing cast a shadow over a vote less than a week earlier to give Muslims in the South greater resources and control over their affairs. Rappler CEO Maria Ressa pleaded not guilty on Wednesday, April 3 to 4 tax evasion cases stemming from the failure of Rappler Holdings Corporation to reflect the total gains in its 2015 tax returns. She entered her plea in a Manila court to 4 tax evasion charges arising from a 2015 bond sale that raised money for a U.S.-based investor for the Rappler news site she co-founded. A smiling Ressa made the not guilty plea before the First Division of the Court of Tax Appeals. Her lawyer, Eric Regalde, said that based on what transpired that morning before the court, they are confident that they will get a fair trial. Ressa also said that she was happy with the court proceedings as it was done professionally and efficiently. The charges arose from a complaint by the Bureau of Internal Revenue for Rappler's alleged failure to reflect in its 2015 tax returns the total gains of almost 162.5 million pesos, which it realized from its issuance of Philippine Depository Receipts to NBM Rappler LP and Omidyar Network Fund LLC, according to a previous release of the Department of Justice. NBM Rappler and Omidyar Network are 2 foreign investors which put money into Rappler between the years 2014 and 2015. Ressa told reporters she did nothing wrong. Malaysia's disgraced former leader Najib Razak pleaded not guilty to all charges against him at the start of his trial Wednesday over a multi-billion-dollar financial scandal that sent shockwaves around the world. After arriving at court in Kuala Lumpur, where supporters were chanting "Long live Najib," the 65-year-old took his seat in the dock and pleaded not guilty to 7 charges of corruption and money laundering. Najib is facing 42 charges in total, mostly linked to 1MDB. The first of several trials begins on Wednesday, centering on the allegations that $10.3 million was transferred from SRC International, a unit of 1MDB, into Mr. Najib's personal bank accounts. The case involves 3 counts of money laundering, 3 of criminal breach of trust, and 1 of abuse of power. Mr. Najib has pleaded not guilty to all charges. The money involved in this particular trial is thought to be in addition to the $681 million that allegedly ended up in his personal accounts. Najib set up the One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB fund, in 2009 while he was Prime Minister to aid the nation's economic development.
Well, there's nothing to it. In fact, we wasted a lot of time. This case could have very well started on the date that is been fixed, which is the 1MDB date. We could have just started there, and we could have just gone on uninterrupted. I have told you before, I'm very confident. Today makes no difference. What's the difference today make? Nothing. So I'm still confident. First of all, there was no attempt to
In 2015, questions were raised around its activities after it missed payments owed to banks and bondholders. The U.S., one of the countries probing global money laundering, started an investigation saying $4.5 billion had been diverted into private pockets. U.S. prosecutors had previously said a person described as Malaysian Official 1 had allegedly received $681 million from 1MDB. That person was later confirmed to be Mr. Najib. A super wealthy construction scion who ran a pro-marijuana platform ahead of Thailand's election has emerged as a highly courted candidate as two main parties need his allegiance and party seats after the disputed vote. The Vumjai Thai Party, meaning Thai Pride, is fronted by mega-wealthy Anutin Charn Virakul, an amateur pilot, son of a construction tycoon and unlikely proponent of the medical benefits of marijuana. Thailand held its first election since a 2014 coup last month, and Vumjai Thai has emerged as a key partner after winning 39 constituency seats in the lower house and finishing fifth in the popular vote. Their campaign made waves by slapping green marijuana leaves on posters. It also touts deregulation for businesses, promotion of ride-hailing services, and a 4-day work week. Thailand became the first country in Southeast Asia to approve cannabis use for medical purposes in December, but Vumjai Thai wants to allow households to grow 6 plants each in a decriminalized approach loosely based on the U.S. state of California.
Marijuana has more positive properties than negative. It has more benefit on people's health, and it creates less harm than other drugs. I want everyone to have access to these plants when it's no longer called narcotic.
The office has small airplane models, sculptures, and paintings of Thailand's king and his late father. Educated at Hofstra University in New York, Anutin maintains in the hallway a collection of original signatures of U.S. presidents dating back to George Washington. Dressed in a suit and drinking tea, the 52-year-old explained that his policies must be backed by groups looking for support and coalitions.
So our policies need to be supported and delivered by ourselves and our colleagues. And at the same token, we will also support other parties' policy.
The Cine Bata Video Festival. Inquiries, visit or contact the following.
Here at the Shoe Museum in Marikina in the Philippines, reminding you to watch Digital Note every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And I am 1 for 25.
Direct News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Welcome back. Finance ministers and central bank deputies of 13 East Asian countries on Wednesday discussed plans to increase the role of local currencies through currency swap transactions to avoid over-reliance on the US dollar. The plan was discussed during the ASEAN +3 Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting hosted by Thailand in the northern city of Chiang Rai. Kyodo News reported that Labaron Sangsnit, Director General of the Thai Finance Ministry's Fiscal Police Office, said participants agreed it is time the 13 countries to rely more on local currencies, starting with swaps that will involve exchange of interest and exchange of currencies to lessen reliance on the US dollar, which is subject to fluctuation. He said the 13 countries, the 10 Association of Southeast Asian Nations members, plus China, Japan, and South Korea, have yet to finalize when the scheme will be implemented, but it will be discussed in detail in the upcoming meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors. The discussion relates to the Chiang Mai Initiative multilateralization scheme, which came into force in 2010 and is designed to address balance of payments and short-term liquidity difficulties in the region in times of crisis, while also supplementing already existing international arrangements. The CMIM evolved from the Chiang Mai Initiative, the first regional currency swap arrangement launched by the ASEAN +3 countries in May 2000. The U.S. handed over 6 patrol boats and equipment worth $12 million to the Vietnamese Coast Guard, the embassy in Hanoi said Monday, as the former foes continue to boost political and defense links. Vietnam and the United States have become staunch allies in recent years as China exerts influence in the hotly contested South China Sea. The latest military deal saw the U.S. transfer 6 45-foot metal shark patrol boats to counterparts on the central coastline of Can Hoa on March 29. It was the third handover in a 4-tier deal and marks another important step in the continued security cooperation between the United States and Vietnam. The latest delivery brings the number of ships handed over to Vietnam to 18, and there will be 24 in total. The previous tranche of boats arrived a year ago and followed a historic visit of the U.S. aircraft carrier, the first since the end of the Vietnam War in 1975. Vietnam Coast Guard Colonel Nguyen Minh Can said the transfer marks another milestone and evidence of the continued friendship between the U.S. and Vietnam. The boats will be used to combat trafficking, piracy, illegal fishing, and other maritime law enforcement, according to the statement. Deputy Minister of Public Security, Senior Lieutenant General Nguyen Van Than is leading a delegation to attend a high-level regional conference themed Synchronizing Trade and Security Plans in Support of ASEAN 2025, which kicked off in Bangkok on April 3. The 2-day event, jointly held by the Thai government and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, has attracted the participation of ministers and senior officials from ASEAN member states and several dialogue partners. In a report in online Vietnam Plus, Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha stressed that over the past few years, Thailand and other regional nations have detected many cases involving drug smuggling and cross-border crimes. Therefore, a common strategy on border protection will help strengthen the stability and security of the region, thus facilitating the development and border trade growth. He stated participants agreed that with a total population of nearly 650 million, ASEAN is one of the largest economic communities in the world and that it has carried out a number of initiatives to develop border trade. However, these initiatives can create loopholes for illegal trading and transnational crime activities, which poses a challenge for ASEAN and its members to build common strategies and mechanisms to solve the issue. Speaking at the event, Than appreciated the organization of the conference. He informed participants of Vietnam's efforts to ensure security in border areas with ASEAN member states. He said that cross-border crimes, including those related to drug and commodity smuggling, human trafficking, high technology, terrorism, and piracy, are threatening stability and trade, economic and investment development in the region in general and in Vietnam in particular. He stressed the need for ASEAN member countries to coordinate more closely to effectively fight these crimes. The National Food Authority, or NFA, has increased its palay procurement target to 14.46 million bags, or 723,000 metric tons for this year after the rice trade liberalization law took effect on March 5. The NFA's new goal is nearly double its original procurement target of 7.78 million bags, or 389,000 metric tons for 2019. It is also significantly higher than the 1.24 million bags, or 62,000 metric tons purchased by the food agency from farmers last year. NFA OIC Administrator Thomas R. Escaras said with the implementation of Republic Act 11203, or the Rice Trade Liberalization Law, rice distribution was removed from the functions of NFA. He said they now have to shift their focus to palay procurement. NFA will continue to serve farmers by buying their produce to ensure a reasonable return for their harvest, especially now that farmers are suffering from the effects of El Nino and private traders are buying low. Under the draft implementing rules and regulations of RA 11203, Agriculture Secretary Emmanuel F. Piñol said that the NFA would adopt a rolling buffer stock with an optimal level of 15 to 30 days worth of consumption and would still be allowed to purchase palay even beyond that level. Any volume that would exceed the 30-day stockpile would be sold in the retail market, especially the old stocks. Piñol adds, the government will provide the NFA sufficient funds to purchase a stockpile equivalent to at least 15 days of national consumption. This Tuesday, Indonesia's trade minister stated that his nation will no longer impose anti-dumping duties on banana imports from the Philippines. OnlineFreshPlaza.com reports that following bilateral trade talks in Manila with Agriculture Secretary Piñol, Indonesian Trade Minister Enggartiasto Lukita announced the termination of the anti-dumping duties. As a symbolic gift to the Secretary Piñol, the termination of the anti-dumping duties on the imports of Cavendish banana from the Philippines, Lukita said. Banana is one of the top export products of the Philippines. As of January 2019, over $160 billion worth of fresh bananas were exported, growing by 127.8% from an export value of $70.50 million in January 2018. Piñol said as to the volume of bananas that we are growing to export to the Indonesian market and other agricultural products, this will be initially determined by the demand in Indonesia. The two countries, along with Malaysia, agreed to form a tripartite technical working group to address the dumping of palm oil in the Philippines.
At the famous pyramids of
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave some love by giving it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe here at ABC Digital Nest so you don't miss any of our upcoming features.
Ako Ako po si Bimbo Cerudo. Lagi po kayong manood ng Young Once Upon a Time Season 2 tuwing linggo, alas 8 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25.
Landmarks, linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back. The sanctuary comprises of a large lake with an open area of water of about 47 square kilometers and surrounding marshland and agricultural land, including floating beds planted with various fruits and vegetables. It is home to a number of endemic fish and invertebrates and some 254 bird species, many of which are winter migrants. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco and I am one with 25.